Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS. It's time for Owin's Field Report, sponsored by Les Schwab Tire Centers.
Welcome back, everyone. Now, like I mentioned a little bit ago, hopefully I mentioned that. Sometimes I think I did and didn't. I did get out and do some fishing this past week, and it wasn't great. Only had a couple of days to get out on the water. Overall, I would say it was not awesome. Fish here, fish there. And we're in the end of February. I even got a rerun fish, a recycle. We'll get to that in a second. Low, clear water, unquestionably. Although on Thursday when we were out last, you could tell that the water was kind of up on the, coming up a little bit. We had that heavy rain day and coloring up a little bit. There were some fish caught that day. It was a tough day. I hooked one, lost it, very end of the day. I was so disgusted I just put my rod away and we left. I mean, it was brutal. It was just one of those days that, not that you want to forget, but just, yeah, maybe you do. But in the end, I did get some fish to take some photos of. Take a look at these. Moose, by far, one of the nicest fish I've seen yet this year, just a true dandy. That's actually the rerun fish you can see. That's actually a hole punch right there on the side of that fish's cheek. Very, very common. Many, many river systems have that program. When a hatchery fish comes back, once they have what they need, they just do a hole punch and recycle a bunch of fish. We like to call them second chance fish, by the way, and I love second chance fish. This isn't one, though. Just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful wild. Just a dandy. I mean, just wow. I'm going to tell you right now, everyone, there is literally nobody in the world other than fishermen, fisher people, that love these fish more than, nobody loves them more than we do. Even the ones that are trying to make money on them, you know, by suing the states and suing the hatcheries and this and that, they don't care about steelhead. They care about money. It's just that simple. What a dandy, though. There's my wild for the day. Overall, again, to get any steelhead, you're doing okay, right? I mean, in the big picture of things, if you're able to encounter a steelhead on any given day, no matter how it is that you're fishing, you're doing good, all right? But it's nice sometimes to have some opportunities, and you just got to get out there. But we're going to show you how things are going to change significantly right now. Rivers are going to pop. When we get to Jeff Forgeron here in just a little bit, we're going to show you why. But the river levels in the end are going to be very interesting. Here is the Willamette. We are adding this in as of today, of course, going forward. But you can see the Willamette right now. Again, for those that have been chasing spring Chinook the last week or two or more, for that matter, you're all crazy. But there's a reason for it. Conditions, right? You fish the conditions that you're given, and minus a couple of days where the clarity was a little rough, well, the Willamette's pretty prime. Right? Now, this is below the falls at Oregon City. That's where I like to get my number from. Right? Everybody's a little bit different. It's just not tidally influenced like it is in the Portland gauge. But anyway, you can see by Tuesday, Wednesday, things start to change. And then by Friday, it's gone. And that's one of those bounces based on how long it takes to get there and what's probably going to happen on the back half. It's going to take a while for that to change. Now, going to the, I believe that we added in the Columbia, not that it's relevant at all right now, but at least give you a rough idea of what they're doing up there and what that particular level is going in to our month long of spring Chinook on the Columbia River. Right now, it's just stable at 12. But taking a look at some of the rivers that are inland, my home river, I'm actually kind of excited about this. Anytime that you can see a bounce like this on any system, doesn't matter where it is, if it's along the coast or if it's inland, these are all things that really help out with having maybe a few extra fish in the system. You get that bounce starting on Monday, it's going to drop back out where you can get some pretty good conditions there, and then it does it again, and then starts to fall. I mean, these are things where you can kind of pick up, you know, some pretty good days, some pretty good opportunities, and you need to look at that everywhere. It doesn't matter if it's along the coast like you see here, North Coast. This is just your barometer for everything that's happening. But as you continue to go, you get a little bit further south. The Celeste is always more dramatic. Let's take a look at the LC because that's going to do something too. I mean, all these are going to bounce. This is all positive stuff. These will refresh these rivers. Doesn't matter, again, any one of them. If there are fish that are intending to come back, if they're waiting, if they're just not ready yet, that's going to push them up. Just that simple. It's going to make a difference. For all of you that love to chase fish in the saltwater, make sure you don't forget the Saltwater Sportsman Show is going on today and tomorrow down in Salem. Don't overlook it. Go over and see the folks at the CCA. They've got a booth there. That's in number 210. Go over and say hello. And again, for all of you that might be interested in fishing the saltwater, this is where you need to be. And for those that are looking to get into the saltwater fishery, by all means do so. Let's also, don't forget, send Jason Hambley an email. Maybe you have a chance to win yourself a prize pack, chasing some steelhead around. I ran into him this week. First thought, I love the guy. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying anything mean here, but I thought about putting a hole in the boat that he was in. That's a whole other story, and if he's watching, he knows I'm teasing. But the others that were with him know I'm teasing as well, I hope. But in the end, yeah, have a chance to win something cool every week. They do that for us, and we truly do appreciate it. Also, don't forget, Kershaw has great deals that are going on right now, and they asked if we would mention this particular sale, because these are actually knives that they never put on sale, but they do a special deal each month, and they've included some of these that have never been on sale before. These are website exclusives, and they only go through Monday. You can't get them at this kind of a deal any other way. Matter of fact, I might have to go look at. Hey, Eva, go on there and see if you can find me a good one. I'm kidding. She's throwing stuff at the TV right now. Anyway, let's go ahead and check in with Jeff Forgeron. First off, Jeff, it's great to see you, man. Congratulations on your daughter. Congrats on that. But it's good to see you, dude. And it looks like we got some interesting week coming up.
Yeah, Owen, we have some very interesting weather coming our way, so take full advantage of the dry conditions today and tomorrow morning. By midday tomorrow, the rain is going to be arriving to the metro area, and today is going to be the last dry day for quite some time. We're looking at many days ahead of soaking rain and mountain snow. Owen brought up the fact that it might take some days, a few days, for the Willamette River to respond to the water coming down and causing the river level to rise. And I think part of the reason for that is we're going to have a really low snow level come Monday morning. So the lower snow levels, it's going to take some time for that snow to melt and to kind of funnel down into the Willamette River and other various rivers coming out of the Cascades. So again, the rain arrives midday tomorrow. This is the 7-day rainfall forecast. It shows the possibility of 2 to 3 inches in our western valleys, 6 or more inches of precipitation both in the Coast Range and the Cascades. And we're going to have some snow falling initially in the Coast Range and then rain coming on top of that. So we're going to have some significant melting occurring. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we had some of those vulnerable rivers coming out of the Coast Range swelling and maybe leading to some minor flooding. That could happen mid to late week of this upcoming week. This is the snowfall outlook for the next week or so. And I'm anticipating the possibility of 3 to 5 feet of snow coming above 3,000 feet in elevation. Significant snow coming, especially to the Cascades. So that's something that we're going to be keeping a close eye on. This is the view right now along the Willamette River from our Rivermar Community Credit Union camera on top of the Portland Opera Building. So Owen, you nailed it. The river conditions are going to be so much different by the end of this upcoming week with all that rain coming in and the mountain snow. But the snow levels are going to be pretty low initially, down to about 1,000 feet come Monday morning, and then they'll rise a bit back up to about 4,000 feet, I'm thinking, by midweek. So yeah, big changes on the way. I'm very curious what it's going to be doing to the fishing out there. We'll send it over to you.
Well, I hope that, I mean, it's great. I mean, obviously, Jeff, I know that we've had a chance to work together for a while, a little while now. We need the snow in the mountains. I mean, hopefully the mountains can hold on to it through April, through May. Our spring Chinook are very sensitive, right? If we have good water conditions, it does help out and lean towards having good opportunities to go out and be successful catching them. But more importantly, is that we want those fish to be able to survive and get through the system and get to where they need to go, either be gravel beds or back to the hatchery. So more snow up in the mountains is all good stuff for us. But again, Jeff, thank you. We appreciate the info. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, you too.
All right, before we cut to a break, I got to get John from Beaverton in. We've got a busy show behind him. Don't forget, though, if you have questions for Don New from Hatchery and Wild, here in a little bit, we're going to have a segment set up for that where we can take a couple of your questions. So if you've always wanted to find out what's going on, this is your chance. Y'all know who you are, and you know what I'm talking about. John is from Beaverton. He's got a question about springers. John, what's happening?
Yes, I've been looking at some ODF and W information, and it appears that they've cut the spring salmon season on the Willamette quite a bit shorter now. And also, it looks like they've cut back the stocking of trout on Hague Lake and Detroit, both the lakeside fish a lot. I haven't seen anything on the Willamette. I just wondered if you knew anything about why they're doing that.
Well, okay, let's do this. You mentioned trout on some of the impoundments, but your specific question for the Willamette would be what?
Well, I don't know. I haven't found anything out about that. I just wondered if you knew anything about that.
Well, the Willamette got a minor, small return forecasted for this year. It was big enough, though, so that they could actually give us our 2-rod endorsement. There's a minimum of how many spring Chinook that are destined for the Willamette that cross the bar down there in the estuary in Astoria, right? So that number barely was high enough. I don't recall what that number was off the top of my head, but it was enough to give us our 2-rod endorsement for the Willamette, which in some way is some sort of special gift from ODFW, which I find laughable at best. So it's not going to be a great return that they're forecasting, but if we remember, right, if you just kind of think about the years over the last decade or even more, when they do have a small return forecasted, meaning that whatever that percentage is or whatever that number is being relatively low, we usually have a pretty good year. Because they always miss it, right? If they give us a high number forecasted return, we come in way low. But they give us that low number, somehow we end up above it. So maybe this is a positive thing, I don't know. But in the end, it's all about conditions this year. If we've got water, if it stays cool enough, long enough, so that these fish can migrate the system and again, of course, get to where they need to go, it could be a good year. But it's enough of a forecast to give us that 2-rod, so that's a positive thing to start out the season. So let's hope that's how things play out. I need all the help I can get. Last year was one of the worst years I've ever had. I'm hoping that this isn't another one. I'm doing everything I can to get around that.
Last year and on the Willamette, and the fish weren't biting. I mean, I could mark some on the but they just weren't biting. So I don't know what's going on with that. But what about the Columbia?
Columbia, same thing. Low forecasted return. We do get into the first week of April. Of course, they mentioned that there's going to be the possibility for extensions, but we don't know. They could literally close it off before then too. So it's very difficult to kind of keep a, solid, finger on the pulse of what's going to happen on the Columbia. But like we always do every weekend here on Outdoor GPS, we'll keep you apprised as best we can. All right, we're going to cut to a break. Thanks for that question, and at least for your opportunity to call us up. We'd love to hear from you again in the future. When we come back, we're going to have Don New from Hatchery and Wild here on the set. We're going to talk about what Hatchery and Wild's got going on right now, some of the things that they're currently working on. And if you have a question for Don, maybe you've always wanted to ask him one, we'll have that opportunity for you as well. We'll be back with more Outdoor GPS in just a couple minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by P-Line, Because We Fish, by Hawken Fishing, Perfection in Fishing Gear, and by Haxton's Canvas and Upholstery, the trusted name of the Pacific Northwest.